So this has been organized by our organization SkillUpRight. We are a corporate training organization. So if you ask me like what we do, we majorly focus on IT training and soft skills, behavioral leadership training. So anytime if you think of any training need, please feel free to reach us out. So we have an excellent speaker today, Naina Mangotra. So I'll just give a quick intro about her so that from there she can take it over. So Naina is a dynamic HR leader with about 16 years of experience driving talent strategy, leadership development, and organizational transformation across Asia Pacific. At Lenovo, she leads a learning and talent initiative that supports the company's evolution into an IT solutions powerhouse, impacting 5,000 plus employees across 13 different countries. Known for linkage people strategies to business outcomes, Naina has received multiple honors for excellence and innovation in talent management. So that's a quick and short intro about Naina. So I'll ask Naina to take over from here. Over to you, Naina.
Thank you, Naveen. Thank you for your kind words. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for your time today. It's such a pleasure to be with all of you and speak about something which is very close to me, at least from a learning principle and a learning design perspective, which is the 70-20-10 learning principle. Uh, Naveen, how would you like the question and answers to go? Would you like participants to post it in the Q&A section or chat? What would you prefer?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for reminding me. So like we have two windows. One is a chat, one is a Q&A. So anything, if Nana is asking any questions or maybe to confirm something, maybe those things you can leave, you can answer on chat. But specifically, you have any questions related to the today's session, we have a Q&A section. We would request you to post all your question in a Q&A section.
Right. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for that, Naveen. Let's quickly look at what are we going to be discussing today. So, as a part of our discussion, we will cover an introduction of the framework itself. We will talk a little bit about the myths that are associated with it and how, try to also debunk them. Why is it that the 70-20-10 principle works? What is the business case for it? We're also then going to move on to looking at how has Lenovo in the real world adopted the 70-20-10 principle? I will be sharing two examples over here. One from the HR space, which is where we try to build an initiative for learning and development in the HR space for the HR partners in the organization, as well as one example from the business scenario, where we've taken a requirement from the business, used the 70-20-10 principle, and used it to create an impactful initiative. Post that, I should also be sharing some of the guiding principles, the do's and don'ts, which I have garnered through my experience over the years, especially in terms of designing various interventions that we have been doing at Lenovo. And lastly, in today's world, AI has become a must, and we'll also look at how does AI help in the implementation of the 70-20-10 principle. So, but before we go ahead and get deep dive into all the information that I have to share with everybody today, let's do a quick poll. I'd love to understand from all of you how familiar you are with the 70-20-10 principle. The poll should be coming up on your screen shortly. Another 20 seconds. We have about 70 responses. We have over 100 people. So another 20 seconds. Five seconds. Anybody who wants to put in a last minute response? All right. Vinod, can I request you to close the poll? If I look at the responses, about 50% of the participants today understand the concept but would like to know more about how to implement. And we're going to look at that in the two case studies that I'm going to be presenting of how Lenovo has used the 70-20-10 principle in terms of two different initiatives. We also have a significant chunk of our participants today who would like to know more about the principle. So with that, let me quickly deep dive into what the principle itself is. Now, for those of you who've heard about the principle would know that it really is a model which talks about how the learning happens. If we take a step back and look at where it actually came from, it was created, or it was more of a research that was done by three gentlemen from Center of Creative Leadership. In the 1980s, these three gentlemen were doing a research on how do successful managers actually learn and grow on the job. As in any research, there was an eye opening information that came out. And after conducting 200 interviews with high performing executives, they analyzed their capability. And the data broke down like this: 70% of the learning came from challenging assignments, stretch goals, as well as problem solving on the job. 20% came from interactions with others, which is around mentoring, from peers, from managers, from buddies, from sharing of other people's experiences. And 10% came from formal training or courses. The way I look at it is that the 10% really helps to gain knowledge. But the journey from knowledge to making it a capability requires understanding, which can be developed with the help of others through relationships, as well as once you have the understanding, the capability requires practice. As with any skill, whether it's in the corporate space or in our personal lives, requiring the ability or gaining the capability requires practice. Let's look at an everyday example in our life. Learning how to garden. Maybe you read a gardening book, a guide, watch a master class, but that only gives you the knowledge of what gardening is all about. Maybe you speak to a neighbor and that they would give you tips on soil, watering, timing, some other things that you can do, what plants grow well in what season, etc., about the topography. But that would only provide you with certain amount of understanding. It is only when you actually get your hands dirty, practice, dig, prune, plant, that is when you actually learn and build the capability around gardening. And this is true not just in our everyday lives, in our corporate world, but for every skill that one needs to do. Does this mean that we don't need a particular type of training, or we would like only the 70%? That's not true. If we look at some of the myths that are surrounding the 70-20-10 principle. The first myth is that the 70-20-10 is a rule or a formula to follow rigidly. But that's not really true. It's a guiding framework, more of an area to reinforce how do you divide the efforts that you're putting around training. To look at a holistic plan to say, yes, we need to focus on a large section towards building capability through experience. Some part of it where people are learning from relationships, humans are social animals and would learn from the experiences of others. And 10% though important, continues to be there as a guiding principle, as a help to build knowledge. To me, that is more of a foundation that one is setting in. Which brings me to the second myth that we should stop investing in formal training, or the 10%. But that's not reality because it does provide the knowledge or the base on which capability and skills can be built. It helps in bringing consistency. It also helps in going ahead and helping us to understand some of the key nuances, the key theory behind the concept that we are talking about. Learning happens not in separate buckets. Learning does not really happen like, okay, today I'm here, I am going to go ahead and just do training. I am going to sit in a class. And then at a different point of time, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to build a separate bucket to be able to go ahead and learn from experience. All of these three sections, the 70% of the learning, the 20%, they overlap. Let's look at a leadership course, let's say in the 20%. It introduces core concepts practice during, right? But you then practice them through coaching, through mentoring, and then also apply those in stretch projects. So, all across, whether it's the training module of the 10%, peer discussions, mentoring, coaching, learning from best practices, you would use that to understand more, gain more information about what's happening on that particular subject. And then when you mix it up with the application, with the experience, the learning happens together. That brings me to the fourth myth, which is very, very common. In today's day and age, we're all looking for what is the return on investment. It is, and one of the myths that's associated with the 70-20-10 principle is that it is impossible to measure the other two, which is the non-formal learning of 70 and 20. But in reality, through feedback, through reflections, project outcomes, behavioral analytics, doing a post and a pre-assessment, looking at various outcomes in terms of performance improvement, these are some critical measures used applying the Kirkpatrick's ROI model by which one can measure the output of a 70 and 20. As an organization at Lenovo, we do have a coaching program. And at the beginning of the program, when once the employee registers, we ask them to put in what their goals for the training, for the coaching session are going to be. And we then measure that at the end of the entire journey to see how have they performed, how has the movement been, and hence what is the ROI. So yes, absolutely. It is possible and it is possible to measure the 20 and 70% ROI as well. The last one is it's a new and trendy model. Absolutely not. It's something, as I shared earlier, was developed in the 1980s by the Creative Center for Creative Leadership based on a research that they were doing at that point of time. Over a period of time, the model itself has evolved, and from just being a research outcome which showed how people learn, it has now become the center for designing learning interventions that help learning practitioners such as you and myself to design outcomes that will really help make the learning far more effective. I do see that there was a comment on the chat which says, can you give a few examples of behavioral analytics to measure 70 and 20? Yes, like I shared before, uh, one example that I shared was of the coaching program that we have at Lenovo. Another thing that we do for all our leadership and behavioral programs is that we ask both employees who are the participants to our programs as well as their managers to assess before a training program, you know, skills or key performance, key behavioral indicators that we are going to be covering in the training program. We ask the managers and the employees to assess themselves before that. We ask them to look at it as, say, how effective they are on those behavioral skills. Post that, post the training, while we take feedback, 6 months later, we also look at doing another post assessment where we are looking at saying, okay, you finished the training. You also looked at uh, implementing it on the job. You've had time to practice those skills. And how have you been doing that? How have you been able to apply those skills on the job? And hence, how has your effectiveness with those skills? How has your learning and capability of those skills improved over a period of time? I hope, Monikot, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, I've been able to answer your question. Let's move on to understand why is it important to have the 70-20-10, and what is some of the how does it really help in the world today? Now, if you look at the key trends that are really helping shape the industry and the learning world today, I'm really sorry about that. I do hope that at some point of time I can hear what the pronunciation should be and correct that. Thank you so much. But let me come back to the key trends and talk a little about what is shaping our learning environment today. What are some of the things that we need to take into account when we are looking at designing interventions for our employees? The first one, AI, a big, huge buzzword all around. And as we keep moving, we're seeing that technology is becoming a centerpiece to training. Whether it's AR, VR, whether it's AI, whether it's LXPs, technology are becoming more and more advanced to help and support the learning interventions. We're moving away from experience based, job based learning to more skill based learning. More and more of skills are becoming redundant, and reskilling, upskilling is becoming very, very important. Employees are also moving from just doing, practicing skills which are relevant to their own jobs, their own functions, to also looking at skills which are relevant to other functions, other jobs. No longer is the job description all about, okay, here is the roles and responsibilities. We don't hire for them, but we are able to move employees across by cross skilling them on different aspects of the job. So somebody in the HR space may be, you know, learning how to do marketing, digital marketing, because that becomes important as a part of their job to be able to promote the organization, make also also help them to be able to move into different directions. It helps digital marketing can help improve the employee value proposition, talk a little bit about employer branding. So more and more skills not just relevant for my own role, but also interfunctional skills and cross-skilling is becoming an important factor. In today's world, personalization, everybody expects that learning that they're receiving is based on their capability, their knowledge, their understanding, and they don't want to be painted by the same brush. Hyper-personalization, learning in the way of work, competitiveness through gamification is becoming a way of learning. In the world where we're talking about reels, where we're talking about reducing attention spans, micro-learning has become another big trend in today's era. And the last one, as the world is progressing, there are employees who are remote, there are hybrid working, teams are spread across the world. They expect learning to be just in time, in the flow of their work. People want to learn when they need it, when they are there. They would rather Google up something and learn how to do something when they're doing the activity, when the skill is needed, rather than learn it before and then wait for a long time to apply. All of these are principles of the adult learning theory, where employees want to learn, adults want to learn based on experience, based on what is it that they will be immediately able to apply and learn while they are in the process of work. The 70-20 principle is based on the adult learning theory. It is based on the fact that employees would be able to learn through their experience as well. The blended approach helps with that. It also helps with retention and reinforcement because while you have the 10%, which will help in gardening and sharing the concepts and the knowledge, it also helps with reinforcement. A lot of the learning is forgotten within the first 30 days, approximately 70 to 80%. And having reinforcement through a blended approach of the 70-20-10 helps in increasing retention by increasing reinforcement of the concepts. Lastly, because people are learning on the job, they're able to put it into practice and build their capabilities. The time it takes to build competence is accelerated. It also helps from the perspective of cost optimization. 10% learning, impact, though impactful, is something that requires both time and money to develop, to get all the people together, whether it's in a virtual platform or in a face-to-face training. And hence, being able to compensate that with on-the-job learning or through peers also helps in improving the cost effectiveness. Let me take a quick pause here to see if there are questions. I do see one, which is what are some of the renowned platforms which can be integrated with ERPs for gamifications? Um, there are multiple LXPs that are currently available in the market. Some of the LMSs also have their own LXPs, such as Cornerstone, Eleco. We also have Exonify. All of these are LXPs that can be incorporated into your ERPs as well as LMSs to be able to provide the gamification experience. Are there any other questions? I think not. So in the interest of time, let me move on to talking about how Lenovo has adopted the 70-20-10 principle. If I look at the learning environment or the learning ecosystem at Lenovo, we have multiple areas or the multiple initiatives across the 70-20-10 bucket. Some of the key ones that I'd like to call out from the ones that are on the screen right now is something in the 70% area is Lenovo Gigs. Now, this is a specific initiative that has been taken at Lenovo where employees identify as a part of their IDPs what are the skills that they would like to develop during the year. People or employees, leaders, functional experts have multiple projects that are coming up. They open up these projects in the gigs marketplace to recruit talent who would spend about 2 to 5 hours a week to do these cross-functional projects. These are not employees who would typically belong to that function, but we would be from absolutely different functions, bringing in a fresh perspective, and they were also contributing different skills that may not be a part of the team that is running the project, and also learn through the gig themselves. Apart from this, which is a self-nominated voluntary requirement, employees also take up cross-functional projects, take up job assignments, new rotations, stretch assignments in case one of their peers is out of work or the position is opened to take up additional responsibilities. What we also do on an annual basis is open up the job shadowing initiative, where all of us, welcome employees to shadow some of the leaders. It is a voluntary assignment where, as a part of the initiative, leaders agree to spend time with the identified nominations for job shadowing, and Then both of them are given specific tasks that they need to complete by the end of the job shadowing period, giving the shadower a good experience of how a leader would perform their day-to-day work. Uh, because, well, you could say job shadowing comes in the 20% of the relationship as well, but because as a part of this job initiative, employees are required to complete certain tasks by the end of the initiative or the end of the time frame of the journey, we have kind of kept it in both. And which is where I said, it's not that it's either one of the buckets, but learning can fall into any of them. From the 20%, some of the two things that I'd really like to call out is one is our coaching program, where employees going through any kind of transition, whether it's campus to corporate, becoming a first time manager, taking up a larger team, they can sign up for coaching. Special cohorts like diversity, women leaders, etc., are also welcome to be and get coached as a part of this. The HR partners are all trained in the ICF coaching principles and they provide coaching through this program. As I had shared earlier, before and after the coaching program, we have surveys with the participants to understand how they have been able to achieve their goals they had identified for this relationship and how have they progressed. We also have a reverse mentoring program where senior leaders work with, you know, fresh graduates or early career employees to be able to get reverse mentored, in which case they both learn and grow with the relationship. Coming to the formal feedback, of course, we do have an LMS, which also provides the e-learning platform. We have used an LXP in the past as well. We do have HighSpot, which is a dedicated sales enablement platform, where employees can come and learn and gather information about Lenovo's products, offerings, case studies, etc. And of course, we also support our employees with external certifications and training. So that's the entire ecosystem that Lenovo has. And we utilize various aspects of this particular ecosystem in the examples or in the initiatives that we do to design along with the 70-20-10 principle. Let me talk about the first initiative. The first initiative is a program called the Internal Trainer Program. This is for our employees to be able to develop their facilitation skills and become trainers within this organization. Some of the key objectives of this particular program are to enlarge the trainer pool at Lenovo and not just focus on the learning team to be able to deliver all the programs, build Lenovo's knowledge powerhouse by helping internal trainers to consolidate and transfer business knowledge. So it's not that these internal trainers just focus on behavioral and leadership skills, but they also bring in business knowledge. They also bring in subject matter expertise that they bring into the training. And in teaching, they also learn and grow themselves. The last one is we would like to use this as an opportunity to build the Lenovo's learning culture, where talent and leaders enhance their capability by sharing their experiences. Now, if I look at the entire program, how does it go and what all parts of the 70-20-10 principle are incorporated? Once employees register for the training program or the internal trainer program, aspiring to be internal trainers, they go through a foundation training. This is, of course, an instructor-led training focusing on building the key concepts that are needed as a part of content development and facilitation. Post the foundation session, all participants are required to practice content development and facilitate mock training. This is an opportunity for them to get hands-on experience in building content as well as in facilitation skills. Because this is a batch program, The mock training happens along with your peers, and it is an opportunity to learn from your peers by watching them facilitate, as well as by receiving feedback from the coordinators of the program, from the internal Lenovo learning organization. Post this, they again go through round two of the advanced session, which is, of course, the 10% of learning, which is facilitator led, as well as they go through a round of TTT of some of the existing programs that we already have, for which we have standard content across the globe. Once they've gone through the TTT and the advanced session, they are required to shadow senior trainers to be able to learn from them and their facilitation, to, to see them in action and see how things are done. Post that, they then go on the job itself and go facilitate shorter webinars and then take up larger roles. Once they have completed the entire journey of learning and are certified to be internal trainers, they join the internal trainer gig program where they are called upon from time to time to facilitate trainings across Asia Pacific. Throughout this journey, the learning team is coaching and debriefing the internal trainer nominations to be able to grow and learn. This is a good mix of how we've been able to implement the entire training program over the last 1 year. If I look at just the last year statistics, we had 17 employees who nominated themselves for this particular batch last year, 14 of which have been certified and joined the gig. All of these trainers get high scores from the trainings that they facilitate with a minimum score of 4.5. And some of our top trainers are getting a score of 4.8. All of this on a scale of 5. Before I move on to the next example, let me see if there are any other questions, any comments that you'd like to share with me. Yeah. Devji, absolutely, I agree that they would have their own BAU as well. So what we've said is that there is a specific number of hours in a year that you need to train on. We're looking at employees to spend about minimum of 12 hours if they would like to be a part of the gig once they've gone through the certification program. And after that, uh, about 12 hours, which is about 1 hour a month. Also, they facilitate face-to-face 2-day programs, so which they kind of take in the entire program. If they do one program, they would be able to complete their hours as well. So we're not expecting them to do a lot of training, but they need to continue to be able to practice what they have learned to stay within the program. How do we measure the ROI? We've looked at a couple of things in order to look at the ROI. One is, of course, how many internal trainers have we've been able to develop in the year in comparison to how many got registered? What is the feedback that we are receiving on the trainers itself? And then also looking at, what is the skills that the employees are developing? What is the scores, the pre and the post scores that we do for our behavioral development programs? How are they increasing? These are the few things that we're looking at in terms of the ROI. How many years of experience is preferred to get nominated as a trainer? We haven't really said that there is a minimum years of experience that we are looking for, but we do say that within the organization, being a multi-band organization, you need to be a certain band and above to be able to become an internal trainer. Now, some of the high potential employees who've reached that band earlier may be able to do that much earlier in their career, but some of the other employees may take some time to get there. So we've looked at it from a band perspective because that's an internal mechanism for us to decide the seniority of our employees. Sharif, to your question, is the TTT certification an internal Lenovo one, or did it complete external certification? No, this is internal to Lenovo only. Any last questions before I move on to another example relating to the business? Can I elaborate on the advanced session? So if we look at the foundation training focuses on a couple of areas, which is in terms of what is the adult learning theory, what are some of the basics of content development, as well as facilitation. In the advanced session, we're looking at going much deeper into how do you do research, what are some of the design principles that you would use to be able to cater to the content. How do you incorporate the 70-20-10 within the instructional design to be able to uh, create content development, and also a little bit advanced skills when it comes to facilitation as well. What motivation does an employee have to be an internal trainer? That's the last question that I would be taking before I move ahead to the next example. There are multiple levels of motivation that an employee gets to be able to become an internal trainer. The first one is their own learning and development, their own growth. This gives them an opportunity for career advancement to become a part of the learning team. They can also become SMEs within their own functional areas. The second is that the program also comes with a certain amount of reward and recognition for all the training that have. Once you are a part of the internal trainer geek, based on what the number of hours of training that you do, as well as what is the feedback scores that you're giving, there is a certain recognition and reward that comes from the organization. Along with that, at the end of the year, we're also recognizing and appreciating the best internal trainers who have been able to do great work in terms of development of the learning culture as well as development of our employees. So motivation is at multiple levels, recognition, rewards, monetary to a certain extent when it comes to rewards, and of course, their own learning and growth. All right, let me move on to the other example, which is from the business space. This is a program called Accelerated Solutions Adoption Program. We started this program in about 2018. And what I'm going to be talking about is the latest edition that we had about a year ago, which is Accelerated Solutions Adoption Program 4.0. Why this program? Lenovo as an organization is going through a transformation. Traditionally, we have been a devices player working in the hardware industry. But as the industry is moving and how the industry is shaping up, Lenovo does see it imperative to move on from being a devices player to being a solutions provider, an end-to-end IT solutions provider, which includes AI, which includes services, which includes different kind of solutions that one can use in their IT infrastructure. In order to do this, one of the key elements has been that our sales force, our sales employees, learn two areas or focus and build their capability in two areas. The first one being all about the knowledge of the solutions that Lenovo would like to offer. So understanding their features, their benefits, how to talk to their customers about it, what is it that they need to ask their customers in order to be able to understand what their requirements are and so on and so forth, which is largely around knowledge of the offerings themselves. And two, consultative skills. Selling of solutions is very different from that of a hardware because hardware has fixed features, fixed benefits, whereas a solution needs to be crafted with the customer and hence the need for consultative selling skills. This program was created in order to build both the knowledge and the skills. The way the program was created is that it has three stages. Stage one is all about basics. It is about what are the basics of our services, what are the basics of our offerings, and what are the basis of our skills. We did name this stage that employees who cross this stage, who are able to pass this stage, will be known as credible sellers, and they would also get badges for this. The way the assignment of this program was done, that at the beginning of the training session, every employee goes through a bunch of assessments. These assessments help us identify what are the learning opportunities that the employees have, how well are they able to meet the benchmarks of our knowledge and skills. Those employees who meet the benchmark automatically transition into stage two. They do not need to go through the learning cycle because they already have the knowledge and the skills required that are going to be shared with them as a part of stage one. Employees then come to stage two and go through another set of assessment on the capabilities that we're trying to develop as a part of stage two. Similar to stage one, those who meet the benchmark would be able to progress, but those who do not meet the benchmark would have to go through a learning journey. This learning journey consists of all the elements of the 70-20-10 principle. It is a modular approach. So when we're looking at assigning training or assigning learning, the projects that we're looking at, it is dependent on looking at what is the information knowledge that you already have and what is it that you don't. And it addresses what you don't. If, for example, there are 5 topics that a seller needs to know, and they are able to meet the benchmark on 3 and not on 2, the learning journey would only focus on the 2, and the 3 would only be reinforced. Right? What we also do as a part of this program is encourage people who are in the top quadrant, who are top performers, as well as who are faring well in terms of the assessment, to support as peer mentors for those who are not faring so well. What does the learning journey consists of? It consists of micro-learning through gamification as well as through an LXP, instructor-led training, whether face-to-face or virtual, application-based learning through case studies, battle cards, projects, case study sharing, peer mentoring, and manager coaching. Um, so when we're looking at all of these, it is a combination of all of these elements that really drive the training that we're talking about. What we're also doing is that when employees coming into an instructor-led training, they bring in live cases that they're currently working on to be able to implement the tools and the processes that are being or concepts that are being taught during the training, so that when they work on those tools, what they take back from the training itself is something that can be readily used. Acronyms that you see on the chart over here, which are more segmentations of the different kind of employees that we have, different segments of servicing different markets. KA would be KA is key accounts. We call our channel managers, distribution account managers, as well as partner account managers. So these are all nomenclatures of the different cohorts of employees that we have within the organization. What made this program really different is it was obviously comprehensive because it was focusing both on knowledge and skills. It was structured into 3 stages. It was based on analysis and data with sharp assessments that were driving the learning journeys. We did provide certifications at the end of each stage with social badges and recognition. Each of the journey that an employee received was personalized to them, which included peer mentoring, manager coaching, gamification, project work, micro-learning. And all of this was done with the help of technology by being able to do that through a technology platform on an LXP. If I were to deep dive a little more into the various aspects of the 70-20-10 that are part of the learning journey at every stage, it would include project work, role plays, live case discussions. We also had used the LXP to help employees practice pitch videos, have managers review them. Something that we're doing right now that we're working on implementing is AI coaches that will help them practice their skills. From a relationship perspective, like I shared, some of the employees who were performing at the top of the quadrant were were asked to mentor those at the bottom, helping them enhance their own skills, helping strengthen their own strengths, at the same time also helping those employees that are not currently doing as well. Managers were given pre-packaged materials to be able to reinforce the learning that has been shared and put the employees on the job. Ask the expert sessions, which are essentially employees again who are experts, subject matter experts, would come in and answer questions in an open forums that would help employees become and gain confidence. Best practice sharing with top performers as well. And then, of course, there was the 10%, which is in terms of instruction led sessions, live sessions, workshops, e learning. And the most, I think, the different part of this was the LXP that we used. The way the LXP was designed was that every employee would go through reinforcement every day. They would be asked 10 questions, taking only 5 minutes of their time, making it a part of their daily lives, a part of their work flow that they are able to come and answer these questions. What these questions did was it gave us data to understand who knows what. It helped us identify who needs to move to the next stage. And it also reinforced whatever they didn't know because every question once answered would also provide an explanation. So, using multiple parts of the 70-20-10 through the entire journey, we were able to get a good balance and draw a good outcome through these. Now, if I were to share, some of the outcomes that we have from a business perspective, we saw that employees who were participating regularly, who were coming on to the LXP on a regular basis to reinforce, were seeing higher knowledge as well as confidence levels. Employees who were also participating with high knowledge and confidence was also translating into the business impact. If we look at the various regions that we have within Lenovo, we were able to draw a clear correlation between participation, knowledge, and business results, both at an individual level with their own sales scores, as well as key matrices within the organization. So, it clearly showing that the investment of the blended approach was working for us. Let me see if there are any questions on this particular example before I move ahead. We are evaluating multiple tools at this point of time, one of them being Lego for AI coaching and the other one being Letter AI. These are two that we've already evaluated and are in the process of identifying which one we're going to be going ahead with. Any other questions? All right, I guess not. So let me quickly move on to the last section of our discussion today. But before we go that, can I know from you, where do you see the biggest opportunity for you to apply the 70-20-10 principle?
I think you should launch the poll.
I think it's coming.
Yes, now it's visible.
All right, we have about 36 responses, is what I can see. Can we have others respond as well? All right, Vinod, can I request you to close the poll so that we can move ahead? So, as you're moving into implementing the 70-20-10 in your organizations, here are some mindset shifts or some of the shifts, navigational shifts that you could take and look at. One, align to business. When we're looking at doing the 70-20-10, look at what are some of the business imperatives, what are some of the job needs, and tie down the learning to the business requirements as well. They should be tightly aligned to the business goals, priorities, and performance outcomes of the role itself. Second, promote everyday learning. Like I shared in the previous example, all the employees were doing, apart from the classroom training, which was only required from time to time, was reinforcing and spending 5 minutes on a daily basis to be able to learn during the course of the day itself. So promote everyday learning. We can't just rely on workshops, but they should be able to nudge it and ask the right questions, document insights, test new ideas into daily habits. The third one, build the ecosystem. Look at an end-to-end approach, an interconnected web. A course may be just a starting point, but then connected to the 10, the 20, and the 70 in terms of a stretch assignment, peer feedback, mentoring, ongoing practice, and so on and so forth. Support mentorship and feedback loops. There are about 20% of our learning is where it's coming from. So set up structures, set up formal and informal coaching mechanisms, knowledge sharing, etc. And of course, encourage reflection and real world tasks. And all of this would require us to use technology. So this is going to support the entire learning enablement and not really replace the human learning. Some of the areas that we need to be wary of and also something to take into consideration is that learners model learning behaviors. Some of the do's and the don'ts. Learning is something that a learning culture is always developed top to bottom. So learners, leaders, as well as managers play a critical role in order to be able to define the learning culture and drive the right behavior. Encourage experimentation, reflection, trying to adjust, trying to take risks, sharing learnings is something that should be a part of the culture itself. And psychological safety. When employees are open to asking questions, they can admit gaps. That's when they will learn far more. Uh, some things to be avoided, rely on one form of learning. We are really here to talk about a blended approach. Informal learning does not happen without support. It is a conscious effort that needs to be put in to be able to get social and experiential learning. So they need structure, they need attention as well. And of course, like I said, leaders have to walk the talk. They need to be able to go ahead and create that culture, create and model the culture that one would like to develop, because without that, culture would just not stick. How does AI fit in? At every level, whether it's the 70-20 or the 10, AI can play an important role. It supports performance management, it supports providing insights, reflection, journaling. It also helps with you know, peer and social learning by looking at what is it that your peers are learning and hence recommending that to you. AI-powered chatbots is something that's happening, is coming up really big. Automation transcripts to help summarize and learn, and of course, discussion analysis. From a 10% perspective, personalized learning paths, adapted learning engines are some areas that one could focus on to be able to bring in and utilize the technology to our learning advantage. So, what's next for you? I would highly recommend that you audit your current learning programs, identify areas where social and experiential learning can be embedded for those of you who were, just learning about the principle or, haven't used it before. Pilot, small scale, try it out, and then make it into a big venture. With that, I come to the last poll for today. Let me open that up. How would you like to use what you've learned today? How would you do things differently in order to implement the 70-20-10? And as all of you are answering the poll, I would just like to leave you with you can't really mandate learning, but you can design for it. And we're looking forward to all of you designing using a blended approach of the 70-20-10. Thank you. There was one last question, I believe, on the chat. I'll quickly answer that. But in the meantime, if there are any other questions, please do let me know. Don't see any questions so far. So in terms of how have we used 70% as learning in the moment of need, we continuously look at the performance evaluation of our employees, and managers do assign assignments, whether it's in terms of stressed assignments or in terms of if there is a new skill that needs to be developed, there are projects that are included. They learn. It is a blended approach. So they obviously learn the concept, but then come and apply it on the job to be able to do that. So I hope that answers your question. How can AI tools be used for reflection and journaling? AI tools are essentially in two ways. One is that they provide nudges to go ahead and say, hey, uh, you know, what are some of your reflections? Would you like to share in your reflections? They're pretty much like chatbots where they come and share, have a conversation with you to be able to reflect on some of the experiences that you have had. And of course, they also, tools like summarization tools also help you see what went well. There are coaches that ask you what went well in the meeting, did not go well in the meeting. Microsoft also provides you with something like a speaker coach that kind of help you into reflecting what did you do well, and what you did not. What AI tools would you recommend to leverage in L&D? There are multiple tools. It really depends on which aspect of the tool that you would like to use. Coaching using the AI system to be able to create personalized journeys is definitely something that I would recommend to use. Thank you, Meenakshi. All right, Shweta, I'm not sure if I understand your question. How to apply 70-20-10 in a field which we want to explore but not currently working on. I assume this is more for individual development, more from a perspective of how do we learn something using the 70-20-10 principle. I would highly recommend looking at starting with the 10%, which is building knowledge. Post that, find peers, mentors, coaches, or people who are in that space to be able to gain an understanding from them, take value from their own experiences, and then start utilizing that understanding and that knowledge to be able to apply and build your capability. Uh, Naveen, can I hand it back to you?
Yes, Naina.
Right.
Okay, I think, yeah. So, Naina, thank you so much for this incredible and insightful session from theory to practice and implementing the 70-20 learning model. So basically, your deep expertise and the practical perspective have certainly given us a lot of to reflect on that and take back to our own learning strategies. It was truly valuable to hear you how Lenovo is driving impactful learning across such a wide and diverse region. And not but the least, to all the participants, thank you for joining today. We hope you found this session meaningful and engaging. If you have any further questions or would you like to stay in touch with us, feel free to connect with us. We have an exclusive L&D group, Next Gen L&D Connect, where we always talk about the trends and people also try and ask their challenges. So if you would like to be in touch with us, please do join our WhatsApp group. So wishing you all a great day and look forward, Naina, for having you for one more session, maybe in the future.
Thank you, Naveen. Pleasure to be here and interact with all of you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks everyone. Have a nice day ahead. Bye bye.